When I bet, I like getting something back, even if I lose. That's why I bet with FANATICS Sportsbook. When I bet with them, I earn fan cash, win or lose, and I can flip fan cash into bonus bets or use it for new Knicks apparel at fanatics.com. Download the FANATICS Sportsbook app and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Recording this, continuing to time and date stamp on Monday, July 7th. It is 10:19 a.m. Not quite sure when this episode is getting released, probably pretty soon. I am here with Andrew Claudio, who I feel like it's been a while since I've talked to, at least on camera and with a microphone. How are you, Andrew?
I'm good, John. How are you? I'll just say this, fun weekend. Shout out to all the fine folks that made Knicks Twitter Day a fun experience. For those who don't know, because you're not on Twitter and you go outside, the entire Knicks Twitter community had a fun basketball tournament in Brooklyn this weekend. Team KFS performed valiantly, losing in the second round, but winning their first round matchup. Lost by one possession in the second round. No Benji, no DJ.
No Macri. Clearly,
no Macri, no Cohen.
Loss.
Yes, the guns were not there. Our best guns were clearly not there. And as a result, we lost to the team that came in as the heavy favorite, Team I'm Possible, led by Sean Geddes. But then a double overtime victory for Knicks Fan TV in the championship game. But a fun day overall. Good to see a lot of people there.
I think, a few people have alluded to this on social media. I really don't know of another fan base who could pull this off. To have like an 8-team field and the basketball be actually really good. And from everything that I saw, it was indeed excellent. And more to the point, the fact that, the rest of the competition, the rest of the competitors would go to such great lengths to rig the tournament such that Benji could not show up and clearly swing things in favor of Team Knicks Film School. I mean, it says a lot. It really does.
Just saying, see what happens next year if you decide to have it on a Sunday,
any other
day, but Saturday. Yeah, they're just, I understood you had to pick a day, and you chose 4th of July weekend when a lot of the best competition might not be available. But as far as we're concerned, just see what happens if you decide to do it on a day that's not Saturday, or I guess in this case, Friday night either. So
I will ask one more question before we get to today's topic, which is what was going through your mind as you were attempting those clutch free throws to secure the first game?
So I got to be honest, and you know this because when you came over to my place in Queens last year, like this is what I'm good at. Like
it is
stationary jump shots. Like don't need to go very far. Like I told Sean, I got you for two things. Probably good for about 4 or 5 minutes of gameplay, and I played about 4 or 5 minutes of gameplay throughout the day. I can set hard screens because I'm a big dude and it's hard to get around me. And if there's ever a foul shot needed, I'm your man. I'm a shooter. That was always my role. Shooter, shoot. That was always my role on every high school intramural team that I played on. At this point in my life, athletically, the words "get back" are not something I'm ever going to respond to. But as soon as I got to the line, I knew I had these.
That's why you're so sympathetic to Karl-Anthony Towns. It all makes sense now.
Well, just want to throw this out there. We have this self-awareness clause I think we should all exercise when it comes to how often we criticize both players and coaches when we're criticizing them from specific couches or playback watch rooms. I now have free reign to criticize anybody that misses free throws for the rest of the Knicks season, because as far as I'm concerned, what pressure? What's the big deal? Step up to the line, hit your free throws, and you're good.
What was it? Grimes and Brunson each missed 2 late against the Bulls. That was 2 years ago. It wasn't. No, it was 3 seasons ago. Yeah,
it was 2 years ago. It was so not last year. It was the year they traded for Josh Hart.
Yes,
it's interesting how your grief process is working. That's the example of 2 clutch missed free throws you went to, and not Karl-Anthony Towns or OG Anunoby in the infamous Game 1 against the Indiana Pacers.
Well, they missed 1 each. I think one out of 2. Look, you're a professional athlete. You should obviously, free throws are the sort of thing that you should hit, but Will Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal, 2 of the 12 greatest basketball players of all time. They routinely went 1 for 2, if not 0 for 2. So 0 for 2 though is like, that's where, to me, that's nerves as opposed to lack of skill.
And to the format of Knicks Twitter Day, intentional fouls were 1-1, so you had to make the first one to have credit to be allowed to take the second one. And look, I want to be clear to people listening or watching. The rest of the team, Kojo, the state senator that played with us, Ali, I'm blanking on some names, but I'll pull them up before I go. And obviously Mensa, Jeff, and Sean, our captain, like. We switched to an all ball pressure second half strategy, and the Strickland didn't score the entire second half. And then we went zone against the team that was the heavy favorite. We pulled out.
Tibbs was not your coach?
Clearly, because we made adjustments at halftime. John Tibbs was not our coach, but we were able to do some strategic things that were, I think, worthy of the brand of Knicks Film School, that we went to the X's and O's to try and win this tournament. I came in and as Mariano Rivera and close things out is basically what happened. It was a group effort, and I had a lot of fun with the guys on Saturday.
The man made the Hall of Fame doing just that. So
bingo. 1 inning a game. I got you for my 1 inning, baby. I got you guys.
So in classic John and Andrew fashion, we decided, so a little behind the scenes. I am not only am I currently homeless, but I am leaving for a couple of weeks this upcoming Friday. So this is going to, barring the Knicks doing anything out of the blue over the next several days, and no Mike Brown intro press conference probably doesn't count, although I guess maybe we'll. Now I'm actually, as I'm saying that, I'm reconsidering these words. There is a chance, let's just say this, there is a chance that this will be the last thing that I record that will air before I leave for this trip. So me and Andrew were like, yeah, let's get one more thing in the hopper, and then that'll be that. And then 15 minutes before we hopped on, Andrew's like, so what are we going to talk about today? And I was like, hey, let's do our 3 biggest unanswered questions for the rest of the summer. To which Andrew responded, I don't have 3 things, which sets up for a perfect podcast because I have a bunch of things. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to empty the deepest, darkest recesses of my mind. And Andrew, you're going to help us craft a list that is representative of what is actually relevant as we get some breaking news.
I've had my finger up this whole time trying to get your attention. So Norm Powell has just been traded to the Miami Heat. Looks like the headliner here,
with John Collins going to the Los Angeles Clippers and Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 Clippers second round pick to the Utah Jazz. So this is pretty fascinating because Miami gets Norm Powell in exchange for a bunch of nothing. And I guess we're just going to have to react to this trade in the moment. I'm shocked by this. I don't understand. I understand why Miami wants Norm Powell. And I guess to a lesser extent, I also understand. No, not even to a lesser extent. I also understand why the Utah Jazz would be happy to trade John Collins, who they have not wanted John Collins, I think, since the moment they got him. But it was a salary dump for Atlanta. Why they would do that for essentially two players who they don't care about and a 2027 Clippers second round pick, which has a chance to be good. Why the Clippers are agreeing to send Norm Powell in exchange for John Collins is a bit baffling to me. Not that John Collins is not a good player. He is a very good player. Or he's a very good offensive player. Clearly, they have something in mind. Either that or they are anticipating Norm Powell's price tag because he is an unrestricted free agent. And they have already said, thanks, but no thanks. We don't want to be in the Norm Powell business anymore if it's going to cost us X amount of dollars. Again, one could guess what Norm Powell wants. And they felt like, hey, this is the best thing that we could get for him. I would just be curious, as someone who was pitched a Norm Powell to the Knicks trade last night by someone who will remain nameless, whether there were any other better offers around the league that were more enticing than this.
So two things, as
Yes.
I'll react to it now. First of all, Senator Jamal Bailey, who played with us on Saturday. I want to make sure I get that out there. Jamal had the most casual of ankle breakers at the end of our victory. The videos going around in our Twitter account. Thank you, Senator, for playing with us on Saturday. And then, look, I'm a little confused by the basketball reasons the Clippers would do this. The financial reasons, I think, are overriding a lot of teams' decisions this offseason. And they also may just go after a different target. Now, I have no idea what direction that might go, whether it's one of the restricted free agents that can't find a job or a suitor at the moment. And then just Pat Riley struck out on Kevin Durant once, twice, three times, struck out on Dame Lillard, struck out on Donovan Mitchell, struck out, lost LeBron, and then LeBron went to another team, didn't get Anthony Davis, didn't get James Harden, didn't get Bradley Beal, didn't get Russell Westbrook. Norm Powell, you finally got him, okay? You finally brought a big name to the Miami Heat. Yes, I'm ignoring that they got Jimmy Butler and then subsequently lost Jimmy Butler in the same way that he left his previous situation. But congrats to Pat Riley and finally getting a big name to agree to go to the Miami Heat. You're now two for your last 15, I believe, since LeBron decided to go play with his friends in Miami.
That's something. Not a good enough rate to make the Baseball Hall of Fame, but I guess it's better than 1 for 15. Yeah, I'm gonna keep chewing on this one, but it'll lead to my first thing. And I don't know if you want to jot these down as I go through them, but basically, probably my biggest question, and it's a general one, but it is a big question, is are the Knicks done? Or let me rephrase that. Are the Knicks going to make a trade? And I guess I should qualify that with like a trade involving one of their top 6 highest salaried players. So basically the 6 players that started at some point in time last year, whether it was the 4 prominent starters and then Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson. Because this, if they don't make a trade, this would count as the first summer, I believe, of the Leon Rose era. And as I say that, I realize I should probably go back and double check it, where they did not have a player acquisition or a player trade that prominently affected the rotation. And maybe I should couch that because Gershon Yabusele and Jordan Clarkson are here. I would say as of right now, I would profile Yabusele and Clarkson to be the 8th and 9th men. Maybe that's unfair, but that's kind of what I mean.
Why would that be unfair?
Would it absolutely shock you? I know it might shock some fans. Would it absolutely shock you if one of those guys averaged more minutes per game than Deuce McBride?
I have no idea what Mike Brown intends to do with the roster at the moment.
Nor do I.
But the question is more so, like, will either of them start? Like,
no.
If you're just reshuffling they could average more minutes than Mitch because Mitch is a 20 to 25 minute player, but I'm of the belief that those are the 4 bench players is more where I'm going to. I thought you were more insinuating that one of them could be inserted as the 5th starter.
No,
Mitch or Josh Hart.
No, but I'm saying like last summer it was Cat and Mikal Bridges. The summer before that it was essentially Obi for Dante. Summer before that Hartenstein and Jalen Brunson came in, and the summer before that it was Kemba, it was Fournier. So a lot of those are all pretty prominent moving parts. The summer really hasn't had that, which unless you want to talk about, Tibbs. Maybe Tibbs for Mike Brown. That's the big trade.
I don't think maybe is the.
You think that's it? Okay.
I think that's always been my thought, is that they made a pretty significant change in the organization with the entire philosophy. You change the driver. So whether that coincides with to your question that's on the screen, are the Knicks going to then make a trade and actually make a significant change to the roster? It's to be seen what's available to do with where they are up against the second apron, which they are now hard capped at the second apron. Is interesting. We should add that some news came out this weekend that Yabusele didn't take the entire taxpayer mid-level exception. So because he's taking about $200,000 less than the full TMLE, the Knicks now have for their two final roster spots the ability to add a full veteran minimum contract, which is why you see the names being out there that they're interested in Ben Simmons or Russell Westbrook or Al Horford, guys that might sign for the vet minimum. And then I think the last spot, I'd have to ask, you tell everyone it's a second round exception, basically. It's
a rookie exception,
right?
Which is, I think, different than the second round pick exception, which actually they make more money. It's basically it's signing a player with 0 years of NBA experience to the lowest possible salary they could sign that player to.
So that's James Najee, the guy that they had the rights to, or the Diawara, or Dink Pete, like whoever you want it.
Whoever it is, that's that player. And then, but actually, yes, he took about a $200,000 haircut. Didn't need to be that much money. So this will give them additional wiggle room even on top of that. So maybe this shouldn't be my first question. And I guess if this shouldn't be my big question, maybe it takes some other big questions off the board. Is there any part of you that from a Knicks perspective has any curiosity over or are like still like has your antennas up about either LeBron or Giannis Antetokounmpo?
No.
Neither one?
No.
Of the two, if you had to answer that one raises your end, you'll have an antenna more up for one than the other. Which one is higher?
LeBron James.
Really?
The only one I think that's available.
As of right now, I would agree with you. He seems like he's quite available. But I don't.
So I'm gonna get out ahead of this. Again, from channels I may have access to, Giannis was largely involved with the Dame stretch, and he didn't like how it was handled. But Giannis was very on board with bringing in Miles Turner. I would anticipate the Bucks being heavily involved in a Bradley Beal buyout situation, and this is a question about this summer, right? LeBron or Giannis?
Just this summer.
I'm pretty sure Giannis is going to be a Milwaukee Buck next year, and then it's next summer. That's the one that's like, all right, we could make it work with Bradley Beal. Tatum and Halliburton are coming back. You guys have like no real avenue to get better. Now we ran it back with this team. Now time to reset. And that I think is the order of operations. LeBron's, going to be 42 this year. Yeah. And seems not happy with the direction things are going in LA at the moment. So I'm pretty sure if he can go to another team that isn't in the West and can win a title, he would. And it's why the Knicks have become a potential suitor.
Yeah, it's interesting because was it Bondi who tweeted out that he checked in with someone on the LeBron to the Knicks thing, and that source was like, yeah, it makes for good conversation. There's like a 0% chance of like, it's not a thing. That's the only reporting I've heard on the possibility of LeBron going to the Knicks. People have talked about the concept of LeBron going to the Knicks, but it doesn't seem like any of that has come from the Knicks organization. So that's the only reason why I was a little surprised when you said Giannis, but at the same time, your Giannis argument makes a ton of sense.
He's not available.
He's not going to become available before next season.
Yeah. If I'm going practically, one guy's available, one guy's not. So of the 0% possibilities that I think are happening here, I'm going to go with the one that, well, okay, if I have to bump one up to 1%,
okay,
if the guys that's available is potentially an option, then, I'll pick that one. Okay.
So then, and I don't know if this should be a new question because it ties in directly with are the Knicks going to make a trade? But if you want to type it out, what's going on with the extensions? Because again, talking about we've gotten no reporting, and I mean no reporting, good or bad, to be clear, on talks of extensions for Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson. Like, hasn't been any suggestion that there's been like a breakdown in talks or any suggestion that talks have even started or like any of those sorts of things. The last we heard about any of this stuff was at the end of the season when, towards the end of the season when various beat writers would be writing their summer or like things to like keep an eye out for. Everybody was like, yeah, both of these players are eligible. And in particular, Mikal Bridges is the one everybody has had their eye on. I don't know what to make of the fact that it's July 7th and we haven't heard anything. I literally have I have theories, but I don't. My theories are. I don't have any one theory that's more in my mind more likely than the other.
Yeah, this would be the question I have more so. Obviously, more so Mikal than Mitch.
Why more Mikal than Mitch? I agree with you, to be clear, but I just want to know why that's your reasoning.
Mitch is a backup center. You traded 5 picks for Mikal Bridges. Like, the level of importance and the bigger story is if you don't find a way to extend Mikal Bridges. This might just be a chess match that they're going to stare at each other until they come to a number. The Lauri Markkanen extension is what's coming to mind here, that didn't go until midway through the summer. I think
there was also a reason for that, because if he had signed it before the August date, he would have been eligible to be traded.
It's similar to the Julius extension that never happened.
Yes.
Which is why I think these two questions that you have coincide with each other. I don't think the Knicks will trade Mikal Bridges. I think they're going to explore all options. From the things we've heard about his relationship with some people on the Knicks and in the higher ups on the Knicks, there may be some how do I put this? Like, he may not want to sign an extension with the New York Knicks.
Well,
unless the number is exactly what he wants it to be. I think he comes to this with a lot of leverage, and the Knicks may come into this looking like they always do for some flexibility, and he may not be giving them that. But that's why this is easily my number one question. What's going on with specifically the Mikal Bridges extension?
The one thing, so the interesting thing here, I don't know how interesting it is. It's a little interesting. I don't like the Knicks right now. Talk about things that like haven't really gotten, I don't think, a ton of attention. The Knicks are the second betting favorite to win the title next year. Like, they are, I think, now more than at any point in time, like before the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, even after the Mikal Bridges trade, I don't know that anybody had the Knicks on in the inner. So, I mean, Knicks fans probably did. I don't know that in the NBA it was viewed around that way. And now I think everybody is at least of the opinion that for whatever flaws the Knicks have, like, there is a world where they could at least make the finals next year, and then make the finals, again, second betting favorite. So, okay, let's say they are in a position where them and Mikal are far apart. The notion that, well, they're going to trade him because Leon Rose doesn't leave these things lingering. If you're the title, essentially the favorite, it's not just like, oh, well, we're just going to trade him because we don't want this lingering situation. Like you can't diminish your championship odds even like 1% this season. And if you think you are diminishing them even by that little bit, I don't know that you could make a move. And then it gets to all the stuff that Jeremy and I feel like we've been talking about for weeks, which is like, okay, if you have to trade him, where's the trade? And nobody could seem to find. I don't know. I don't know if you have any ideas. We haven't really talked about this, but I don't.
I don't either. I think it's why I eventually land on they'll extend him.
To your point, what if they're offering the full number? What if they're offering the 4 for 156?
Yeah.
Like, thanks, guys. I'll sit on that for a bit.
So what's Trey Murphy's number at the moment? What's his contract?
I don't even know off the top. I'll look it up right now. Hang on.
Yeah, that's the only one I've thought of. Is there a Trey Murphy trade? I go to this may not be the smartest way to calculate this, but
it works. He makes literally $100,000 more than Mikal Bridges this year.
So they need a third team because both teams are. Yeah,
but they again do a sign and trade and send a veteran minimum to a third team.
Right. So my thought is, and again, this is not the smartest way to do this, but roommate podcast guests are people that I usually look at as like, okay, you've never played for the Knicks. Why are you sitting down with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson? You've never Trey Murphy went on their show last summer. So clearly there's a relationship there. Wasn't Mikal Bridges at no, he was at Malik Monk's house. Never mind. Oh, he was at Des Baines' house, excuse me, when he found out about the Knicks trade. So that
I didn't even realize that.
I didn't know if he was I was trying to remember if he was at Trey Murphy's house or not. Regardless, Trey Murphy the third, potentially if New Orleans, not exactly dealing with a rational actor there, if New Orleans wanted to trade out him for a Mikal Bridges in some type of deal. I don't even know what the Knicks could even offer to make. I don't know what team's getting the better player in that. I don't know what team is getting the better contract in that or contract option in that. I don't think the Knicks would get picks back, but at least they'd get a great player, a good player that would fit what they're doing. And to your point, not lower their odds to a place, where they fall below the second best odds in the conference. But that's the only one I've thought of is Trey Murphy.
Trey Murphy, 3-point attempts per 36 minutes, starting with his rookie year, 7.7, 7.3, 9.5 2 years ago, and then last year, 8.5. He's a 38.3%, or a 38.3% percent 3-point shooter for his career. Defensively, different than Mikal Bridges. Certainly, I have not watched enough of Trey Murphy III to say like, is he definitively I mean, he doesn't have the defensive reputation of Mikal. He's also a young player. Man, but the money, to your point about the money, Trey Murphy this upcoming year, he only makes $100,000 more than Mikal Bridges, but it's the first year of a 4-year extension. So over the next 3 years, he will make considerably less, which is why I would imagine certainly if if the Pelicans are even a little bit smart, they will ask for like those 2 future pick swaps, but we don't know if the Pelicans are even a little bit smart.
If you throw in Mitch, you could get Herb Jones too. John, I'm simply. This is mostly a hypothetical.
Well, they have 18 centers, so they're not going to trade for Mitch.
Okay, they might want another. They might want 19. But that's more where I'm going with this. Is if you want to take advantage of an irrational actor here that might not know what they're doing, and between Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars, just remembering the old Pistons days. Mitch is from New Orleans. Mikel's not from the DMV. So
I was about to say
that's going to be. Unfortunately, he doesn't fall inside that bubble that they like to look for talent.
Really, it's not that far from the DMV. It's like adjacent.
Let's make the case. Hey, it's right outside the DMV. Why not? That's close enough, right?
Man, that's a fascinating. Either of those trades would be fascinating, kind of like hypotheticals. Okay, so that's something that I'm wondering. Bobby Marks just tweeted out, this is a home run trade for Miami. Someone has to talk me about how the freaking Heat just got Norm Powell for that. That's really annoying. Okay. Other summer question things. Obviously, you can type this one out. Who gets the third? I'm calling it the 13th roster spot. Because we assume that the 14th roster spot is going to be, again, one of the players that the Knicks already have rights to that have 0 years of NBA experience are probably not going to figure prominently in this year's team. I made a little list for the Knicks Film School newsletter today on Monday as we are recording this. Other than Ben Simmons, who I am curious to hear what you think of the possibility of Ben Simmons, as I think he would be the 10th man. Some other names I came up with, Gary Payton II, because it had been reported that he is doubtful to return to Golden State. And 2 of the years that he was with Golden State, he actually, or Mike Brown was one of the assistant head coaches there. So Mike Brown, very familiar with Gary Payton II's game. Obviously, the knock on him is he's a smaller player who doesn't really shoot a lot of threes, although in the playoffs, he was kind of firing away to put up over 2 3-point attempts per game in limited minutes in just this postseason. It actually went 9 for 23. Trey Lyles is a guy who, if you read any Sacramento Kings blog or message board, you will know that like Trey Lyles is probably the closest thing to Mike Brown's like Taj Gibson or Josh Hart. Like Mike Brown loves him some Trey Lyles. He has always gotten minutes as a Sacramento reserve. And I found one quote, which is like, shows me that, again, Mike Brown is not that different from Tom Thibodeau. Somebody asked him like about like, you know, why he loves Trey Lyles or why Trey Lyles like continues to get like significant minutes. And Mike Brown was like, he gets rebounds. And that was his whole answer, which is like, you want to ask any coach why a big man stays on the court? 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to have something to do with rebounds. And he can shoot the 3. So that's something. I wrote down the name Seth Curry. I don't think Seth has any desire to go anywhere from Charlotte at this point in his career, but he did lead the league in 3-point shooting last season. Like he shot like 46 or 47%, which is like, I don't know. That was interesting to me. Alec Burks needs no introduction. And then the guy that I'm wondering if he should maybe be the leader in the clubhouse for this spot, and I haven't really heard any reporting on this, is PJ Tucker. Like we heard how important PJ Tucker was to the locker room last year. Maybe they think that out goes Tibbs, in comes Mike Brown, and whatever other assistant coaches, like whatever locker room issues there were that required PJ Tucker to come in are like solved. But I don't know. And by the way, the Tucker one relates directly to my next point, which I will save and then let you respond to this.
So I agree with what you said in the newsletter, that if you're going with PJ Tucker, then you have some confidence in last year's rookie class, that you think Tyler Kolek is ready to take a step up. You're thinking.
I said, wait until my next point. You stole it from me.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you were saying to react, and I just agree with that point, John. So by all means, go ahead and say it.
It would be to me, if it was Tucker, that would be the exact correlation that I would make. But we'll see.
Yeah. This is a good list of names. I think they're plausible cases. The names that weren't said are, in my opinion, going to have better options elsewhere. Anybody with the Bradley Beal stream, or even a Chris Paul farewell tour. I think the Knicks went and got their backup point guard, and it's either a combination of Deuce McBride, Jordan Clarkson, or Tyler Kolek. I think they need someone that can play the 3. Understandably, especially, well, it depends. If Josh Hart's coming off the bench, he can play the 3, and it's like a combination of a 3/4.
Can we talk this out?
Yes, please.
None of Jordan Clarkson, Deuce McBride, or Josh Hart are a point guard per se. Between the 3, if you believe the I don't even want to say reporting. We keep mentioning the implication of Ian Begley's 2 recent reports about the Knicks kick the tires on DeAndre Ayton, and the Knicks like Yabusele as a backup to a Mitch Cat frontcourt. Both of those things very clearly point to the Knicks are going to seem to be maybe maybe heading towards starting a center next to Cat, in which case you'd have Deuce, Clarkson, and Hart off the bench together. That also splits up Mitch and Hart if that's a concern of yours because the two non-shooters. Those three together, I think could handle like initiating offense, right?
Between Deuce, Josh Hart,
Clarkson, and Hart. Those three guys.
Yeah, who's the backup on? Yabusele. And then you have Yabusele. You're saying initiating offense.
Initiating offense, yes.
Yeah, especially if they're playing with Cat. I mean, he's your hub. And then it's similar to the backup units they ran when they had Sabonis. It's what I'm hoping Mike Brown decides to do, in the sense that Karl-Anthony Towns is your backup center. My question about this 13th roster spot is, how much does this 13th roster spot have to be someone that you potentially consider playing at some point this season? Or is it, to your point, with PJ Tucker, a ceremonial roster spot that's the Udonis Haslem veteran in the locker room, the Taj Gibson of it all.
Taj played till the end, so
specifically played for Tibbs, but PJ Tucker didn't. So I'm wondering how much this rotation spot matters to the actual rotation. Well,
and that leads to my last question, which is: are we going to see anything at Summer League that opens our eyes, that raises our eyebrows, I guess would be the better terminology? The guy, and this is no disrespect to Tyler Kolek, this is actually respectful for Tyler Kolek, because if Tyler Kolek goes out there and kills it in Summer League, it's not going to matter that much to me, because he was really good at Summer League last year. And like, we know what Tyler Kolek is really good at. And if Tyler Kolek goes out there and scores effectively against this level of competition, again, with all due respect to Tyler Kolek, I'm not going to be that impressed. I need to see him score against NBA competition. Huck Porty, again, I think we already know what Huck Porty could do. I'm all aboard the Huck Porty train. I'm like, yes, if he needs to get rotation minutes for whatever reason this year, or somebody gets injured, I'm fine with it. I want to see what Dadier does. I want to see, does Dadier show up and look like a dude? Because it doesn't always work like this, but typically when raw or raw-ish prospects get drafted and they go out in Summer League their first year and they look like, oh, this is maybe a little bit too big for them. If those guys are like going to be a player, they will show up in year 2 and it's like, whoa, this guy was clearly working on some things over the last year. So I want to see what Dadier does and if he maybe turns some heads, because to answer your previous question about this team might need another wing, there's no wings available on the minimum market that are like unless you want to get in the Taylor Horton Tucker business, and I knowing you like I do, I'm not sure that you do.
Pass.
That guy's only 24 years old,
and it feels like he's been like talked about for the last decade of my life. Yeah,
this has happened now twice over the last month. Kevon Looney, I would have bet any amount of money he was like 35 or more. He's 28 or 29, and Taylor Horton Tucker, I would have been convinced he's like 30 years old. He's 24. I mean, because Dadier, look, even if he shows out, is he going to get penciled into the rotation this year? I doubt it, but he's the guy that I have my eye on.
He's the only one that we never got a significant regular season sample size of. After Brunson went down, we got a significant look at, after Brunson, Deuce, and Campaign went down, we got a significant look at Tyler Kolek and DeLon Wright for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then Huck Porty legitimately overtook Jericho Sims in the rotation.
They traded him.
Well, to that point, you honestly, there were points where you wondered if he was also going to take Precious's spot in the rotation at certain points in the season. So there's a stretch. By the way, Precious Achiuwa not on the list.
I was about to say, you want what speaks volumes? I don't think there's a Knicks fan alive that's like, hey, maybe Precious should get that.
Yeah, pass. I think Dadier is the one. And look, he came in onto this team as the very clear project. And that's why if you see something in Summer League that might let you know you're at the next phase of said project, then maybe there's something to it. And it might inform what you do with that roster spot. Look, We haven't said the name Landry Shamet yet. That's a guy they could get with that 13th roster spot.
I should say that in my newsletter, I mentioned ahead of those 5 names, I was like, Simmons has been mentioned and Shamet has been mentioned. I would put the likelihood of Shamet getting that spot I'd probably actually put him as the leader in the clubhouse right now. If I had to, assuming Ben Simmons is just like, you know what? I don't want to assume anything with Ben Simmons. I have no idea what's going on with Ben Simmons. I will say this. I think if Ben Simmons wants to come here and be the 10th man, I think they'd probably sign him.
I have no idea what Mike Brown would. That's just how I'm going to have to inform my decisions or opinions here. I don't know what the coach would want to do with Mike Brown. Is
he in control
Simmons.
Of that?
Okay, they did add 2 roster spots or 2 players to the roster before they hired him. Although I would have hoped they were like, "Hey, Mike, you good with Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele?" They seem to be leaning into an offensive identity, which does not mean Ben Simmons is the guy you want on your roster. I understand what Ben Simmons can do defensively. I understand what he can do in a limited role, what he did with the Clippers last year. They had more offensive creation on their team that he was just kind of there to be a point center for 10 to 15 minutes. I would hope the Knicks use this spot as, especially if he's going to be doing backup units with Josh Hart, like on a guy that but Josh Hart and a center, that you have a guy that's ability to shoot, which is why I think the list you've given out so far, I've been staring at guys that have the ability to shoot. And it's not even, you want to really drive Knicks fans crazy, have Josh Hart and Ben Simmons be on the court together, passing to each other because they're afraid to shoot the basketball.
Yeah. Well, one of those guys is literally afraid to shoot. The other guy just maybe
goes through stretches where he forgets that he can shoot.
That's a very good way to put it. Okay. That's all I got. Anything we didn't cover that's something that you're wondering?
Not really. They answered my big question last Wednesday when they hired Mike Brown. Like, who's going to be the head coach of the basketball team? The
offensive and defensive coordinators, as it has been phrased. I don't even know what there is to say about this because, like, we know the names that are out there. We know. Is the Borrego dream dead? Is that still a thing? I don't know.
I would think it's dead because I don't know why New Orleans would allow him to go to another team for the same job. Like Fred brought up this point last week. The only time we could remember a team doing that, allowing someone to be in a position as like the assistant head coach and going to another team to be, again, their assistant head coach, is Johnny Bryant. And the Knicks were fine to let him go to the Cavs to be the exact same job. I don't know why New Orleans would do that. Has been a question I've asked a lot this offseason. So maybe there is a world where that could potentially happen. I would think that's dead. Look, Darvin Ham as your defensive coordinator could work. Sure. I'm sure there's an offensive mind out there we're not thinking of that could end up. I think those are the types of hires that I just kind of wait and see when they happen. It's like, I'll evaluate this when it happens. Yeah. The only other non-Knicks thing, just to wrap up, just to close the loop on the whole thing. I didn't mention that Jeremy Goldstein played with us on Saturday as well. Shout out to Jeremy. French Jeremy, as we call him, because for some reason his favorite player is Evan Fournier. Jeremy, I am sorry that the New York Mets saved Aaron Boone's job by losing yesterday, but congratulations on your first win of the weekend and the first win of the last week for the New York Yankees. You're welcome for that, by the way. The Mets did everything they could to lose, and then it took a miraculous play from Cody Bellinger to beat them.
I hope everybody's excited about a summer of exciting New York baseball. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. I got to get out of here. This was fun. I'm happy we did this. We will. So stay tuned if you're listening to this or watching this, because we do have something exciting coming up this summer as a larger project that I've kind of teased out a few times. I may have actually already said what it is, but whether I did or didn't, we're going to have more of a formal, official announcement coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, as news breaks, obviously, we will continue to react in the moment. I think nothing short of a Giannis or LeBron trade will get me to hop on an emergency live stream while I am overseas. Although maybe famous last words.
I'm banning you from emergency live streams unless it's a Giannis or LeBron
Please do.
trade. Okay.
All right. Angel Claudio, thank you. Anything before we go?
Nothing. Enjoy Italy, John.
Thank you. Everybody out there, thanks for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We'll be back with more funny games before you know it. Peace out.